Hello and welcome to this level 4 video within my energetic system series. My name is Allie with A. Marie Speaks, and this series is an attempt of mine to organize and walk through the basics of system transactions to hopefully help us as energetic beings operate within systems with more clarity and honesty and getting better results. So if you're interested in that, even if you're new, welcome. That's what I'm talking about here. If you are not new to the idea of being an energetic being and of being in this sort of conscious, alive universe that we are, then this series is something that will probably be of interest to you. If you are brand new, I would not suggest starting here in level 4. I would really say jump back into level 1 and watch the videos from there because they do sort of build on different topics. And here at level 4, we're starting to break into looking at external systems and others and how we interact, how our system as a whole interacts with other systems. And I have already built up and talked about our system as a unique system and how we work with that and how we learn about it and interact with that. And I did that for a great purpose, right? So that we have a good working with our own system before we do this turning of the lens and looking outwards. So with that air of caution here, I'm going to move into my content for this video. In hoping that if you are continuing to listen, and all of us, even if we have been sort of walking through this whole thing, and even myself, someone who's already become very conscious of this, I still have to come back to it refreshed every day. I still have to come at every conscious moment with fresh eyes, with a sovereign presence. So really, that's a reminder for all of us anyways. So today, piggybacking off of what I have already started to introduce here for level 4, this sort of reminders of the foundation that we're built on, circling back to the foundation, I am hoping to talk quickly about service orientation in a comparative sense here and look at the two different options that are available depending on how you service your inner core, how you align with your own system, what kind of system you're running inside, right? And I'm not going to go into the inner workings of the inner core or how to correct those things or what that's even all about. That we have dived through and already worked into level 2 and 3. So like I said, if you are new, know that there's, 15 videos maybe all about that. Inner core and your workings and everything. Because, like I said, there's two different scenarios available, and it depends on how the inner core is aligned and how you are aligning with truth or not, as to which one you will have available to your building, which building your reality, right? Which kind of angle or alignment you'll be able to sort of keep, and will be your course corrective direction that you'd like to follow, right? And it's especially important to remember, right? Just like I said, this is a navigation through things. It's not a straight and narrow one-way negative path, one-way positive, and they're separate and they don't touch and they're very clear cut. It's this, it is lemniscatic, it is like, I'm searching for the word and I can't grasp it for the DNA, but it is a spiral staircasing, an interlinking. It's a polarity, a seeking of neutrality between opposite forces of energies, right? So there's much at work here. There's much happening all the time. But what is polarity? What is service alignment? What is the external torrido really doing? But calling towards a direction. It's heading in a directionality or an alignment that has an overall balance towards either service to others or service to self, either negative or positive. And so what we're doing and what we're talking about always here, we have to remember and leave this openness, leave this space for change and for fluidity and different interpretations as well. So bearing that in mind, what I kind of want to do as just an introduction to these external orientations and systems is to give a metaphorical model. And then we'll backtrack and work through it afterwards and sort of tie in some more specifics into it. So the model in itself is a generic model, just like the Taurus tool, just like life is a generic model, right? And then depending on the boss of how you choose to run your model, it will and must function in certain ways, bearing certain truths that you have staked in the ground. This is important to remember that when a system is created and determined, the observer, the creator who does the label setting and sets the boundary and says this is a system to do this purpose, right? It is designating purpose. And yeah, I don't want to get too out there either, because sometimes metaphysical concepts, it just all sounds like the same repetition of the same sort of nonsense. And I want to hold myself accountable to not reiterating those sort of we are one, we are, sort of explanations to everything all the time, the same in the same way, when there's, as if there's no nuances, there's no differentness, when every time is different and there's a variety every single time. So we can say it differently, and so we should. So I'm going to attempt to offer, that different, a tailor fit to this we are one sort of idea here. So depending on whether we align with a negative orientation, which is the organic model for the inner core, right? This negative torriedal inside of us looks for and requests and balances best with a positively oriented torriedal outside of it. And conversely, of course, if you have a positively pushing torriedal inside of you, it will be balanced and look for balancing best with a negatively oriented torriedal outside. And like I said, there's a balance, there's a give and take. This is a crossing and continual transactions on all levels that happens. But like I said, we're looking just at the overall functionality. Overall functionality sets the basis that all the little processes will follow. Right? And so into my model and into the generalities of this, so we could understand this in kind of plain language. Depending on your truth, and this will be, the one truth is, that we are all one, that we came from a before and an after, that each one of us is bestowed with a gift of sovereign life, a right to that conscious life, and that they deserve respect for their own free will choices and their own reality creation, because they are a fractal reflection of God. We are all one. We are all from the Creator. We are all blessed with this beautiful gift, equal to every other person, every other being, every other bit of matter here has the same amount, and we all have the same gift. And we are, that's the one truth, basically. You know what I mean? That's as simple as it is, trying to align and seek that always, to work from a place that says that every other out there is a reflection of me, and as such deserves respect, an empathetic mind, a kind heart towards it, just as I would like to be served, right? Just as I would like to be attended to, or looked at, or criticized, or observed, right? We are putting ourselves in the place of responsibility with sovereignty and opening that responsibility up to others as well in a kind way, in an honest, free way. You know, there's no strings attached. There's no expectations. It's just being and isness. That's truth. And that's what we're working and seeking to align with when we talk about positivity, service to others, goodness, and rightness. That's what we're talking about, seeking and aligning with truth. Conversely, the negative side of things contains distortions. It doesn't like that truth. It doesn't agree with it. For whatever justifications, reasons, explanations, however kind of evidence that you have found to confirm that and distort that truth, bending the light, right? Bending your truth. However you choose to do it, there's 360 infinite degrees that we could cut that light and circle, and it's at the farther and farther down that you choose to bend and cut. You can do it in a million ways. But that's what happens in the negative service. In the negative orientation, instead of seeking correctness and truth and light, full spectrum, they seek to hide and shadow areas and contain lies so that they can benefit themselves ahead of others, because they're not agreeing that everyone is here of right gift of life. They see it as this kind of YOLO, one time only. I got to get as much as I can while I'm here, make it last and be as big and as much as I can while I'm here, because that's all I have. And that's the orientation and the laws and the rules that all those systems will be built within. And at first it seems like kind of it doesn't matter, but it really does. Intention matters. Intention builds everything. What is a business but a thought of a service that needed to be provided beforehand, that you've built and manifested a building, paperwork, accounting, all of these things around, right? But everything starts with thought first. Everything comes from energetic world first. And if we remember that and we build from places like that, the things we build will have better results that align with what we're expecting more. Because I really feel, I honestly do, that human beings, we want to naturally seek what is good, what feels good, what's inspiring, what is connecting, what lights you up inside, right? We naturally want to do those things. It's when we've been crushed or hurt, all across abusive and traumatic reasons, all scale, that distorting happens, and that we get turned from this beautiful, positive, infinite, expansive imagination space of creating, and we get focused in and say, no, you have to do it this way, and we get corralled into this really negatively oriented reality that's set in front of us. Most of which, like 99.99% of it, is all built under that umbrella of negativity. It is built under the umbrella of servitude and of this, all of these negative alignments that say that the person is not worthy, basically. And so it's no wonder, we all of us, mostly the crowd, and everyone is focused over here, and we've got our backs to the beautiful open pasture, for many reasons. And now I'm not going to get too wrapped up in that, and I'm being diverted, and I've already talked for 15 minutes. But these things are crucial, and they're very misunderstood at this point. There's such propaganda and purposeful manipulation of information out there that I see straight through, and everyone will see straight through. As soon as you start to do inner alchemy work, as soon as you start to trust your own truth, and you look with clarity out at life and reality, you'll see straight through all of this too. I'm not claiming a right to this information or saying I'm the first to see it or anything. I'm saying all of us see it, all of us will see it, and the more we talk about it, the better. And the plainer language too, the more general workings, the more variety that we can see the same lies cast through, the stronger our strength is getting, the stronger our truth meter gets. And so with that said, let's understand the model that I really came on this video to even speak about, which is my banking model. I've talked about this a couple of times in other videos, so if you're not new here, I'm sorry for redundancy, but I really feel like this is the best showcasing of the external toroidal systems. I am going to break it down with some littler nuances that I haven't talked about before, so it's not a total repeat, but it is that same model of working. And for those of us who are new, let's break into it, right? So the banking model, much like I use the hijacked triangle to talk about and show how it is the pyramid structuring of the negative hierarchy has taken the triangle and forced directionality for us to look at it as top-down structuring. But the sacred triangle, triad of creation, is really meant to be a border that gets put on a horizontal plane. It's not a vertical structure with hierarchy, right? It's a horizontal plane that everyone stands on the same level of sovereignty within and has a different view and perspective out of, and comes to build something together within a boundary that couldn't be made outside of that boundary. And then they're free to leave the boundary after, and they're free to do other things, and that beautiful boundary would be set there glowing, and it is for anybody to step in and work in. And that's how bubbles of reality and all systems really work with this template, this porous boundary of us being able to step into models, step into what I'm going to call the bank right now. And it's a beautiful metaphor because, yeah, it's a thought, just like the triangle is a thought and a presence of how we stand and how we look at something, what perception and direction do we have, the perspective we're looking at things, interpreting things with, right? But it's also like a, oh, I'm so sorry, I just had like mind, bing, thoughts stolen. But it's also, not just metaphorical and not just from the third world, the thought world. It's also 3D world. You also are responsible for your physical body vessel, just like a bank has a physical location, right? Now, your physical body vessel here that I am in, my physical bank branch, isn't just the only bank either, because we have corporate headquarters, right? Who knows where that one's located? It's there, it's real, it's tangible, but it's not in physicality. It may be in other dimensions or densities. I'm not going to pretend to have a locale, some kind of secret information about that. But I understand the workings, and I know an infinite space of the void here in the universe. It is there. And it has a place and a placeholder for that. But we have here in 3D Earth, this place we're at has physicality, and so we have physical location too. So the banking model I used beforehand mostly about internal workings, and there's a whole other side of the metaphor for that. For the external workings, what we're going to talk about mostly with the banking model, right, is this physical branch, right? It's taking place, what's happening in the branch at the location. And yeah, what's the building? What's the cleanliness of the building? Do you have a janitor who takes care of that stuff? Is the paint peeling outside? What kind of windows are there? What have you chosen to have as furniture inside your bank? What is the actual decor interior look like? What does the atmosphere feel like? What's the music playing in there, right? These are all come into play when we're talking about the external toroidal, and that's your external body, right? That's how you showcase yourself, what clothes you wear, how you take care of your body, what you eat, all of these things that has to do with the external system, the external, right? And I have talked a little bit about that at the beginning of level 4 with the external system. Now we go to turn our lens and refocus in to just the whole of the external system. We see it split into the three parts, external, internal, and the flow, the in-between. In the external, right, is your body. And just like the bank, it's the banking building. It's all of the things that are involved in the upkeep of that and the presentation of that. And you can, when you learn this sort of visualization, meditative exploration, and you go into these things in your own bank, you will see and you will learn more about it. You will find paint peeling. You will find jobs to do, windows to wash, corners that haven't been swept perhaps. or you might find a super micromanaged janitor who's obsessively cleaning things, and for some reason, you never know. Another part of the external banking model, right, isn't just the branch that you're in and the upkeep of the building and the atmosphere it presents, but it's the workers, the tellers, who do the day-to-day business with the customers, the others who come from outside, right? That's a whole other layer of working, and that's the internal, external layer of working. And the way that your tellers work for your bank, the attitude that they have, do they feel appreciated in their position? Do they like their job or not? Do they enjoy coming? Do they feel appreciated by the bosses? That all matters, right? We know that matters because plenty of us have been in a bank where we have grumpy tellers, or plenty of us have been in a bank where we love a certain teller, And it's not just personality either, because when you can then become a worker in a bank, you understand, oh, wait a minute, it's not just the personality, it's how they're treated. It's how the group of the social group, the tellers work together, it's how the managers work with them, it's how the bosses look down at those and what kind of rules they're setting for them, what kind of attitude they treat them with, and what they value. All of that trickles down, right? There's a lot of truth to trickle down economics. You know what I mean? But the truth is, in systems, in positively flowing systems or negatively flowing systems, energetic intention is trickled down, top to bottom. And if you're focused and aligned with the truths, like I talked about at the beginning, aligning with truth, seeking these things that feel good, seeking your highest good, being empathetic, seeking, harmonious solutions, and that's the atmosphere, that's the trickle-down intention, and every boss knows that their workers matter. Every worker knows that the boss worked his way up through the chain. He spent time being a teller, worked long nights, spent time, being the janitor, and did all these, and would step in for you if you need time off, and you feel capable and admirable, and needed and wanted in that position as well, a valuable piece of the system. How much happier is that bank going to be, right? How much better is the atmosphere in that bank going to be? It's going to be way better versus looking at the bank who every manager is looking down at them, nitpicking, wondering if they're stealing, aggressively acting out towards them, if they hate their lives and they're unhappy with themselves and they're spewing out aggressive, derogatory kind of comments, or maybe they're just cold and short and whatever. I'm not going to get into all the crazy nuances because this video is already past where I wanted to go. But you catch the drift, right? So this is what we're going to be, and I would love to have instigating and within people to be exploring more and taking that time to see what's the real flavoring of your bank, of your systems. The other part that comes with the external model here in the banking model, right? It is not just the bank building, and it isn't just all the offices. It isn't just the logistics of what happens between those and where the money is and where your money's stored in safes and the CEOs and the board and the managers. It's not just the architecture and the structuring of that, right? And it's not just the transactions that all that involves. There's also, the internal part of it, which I already kind of talked about with the internal core, but I'll just sort of reiterate here, which is literally what are those workers' lives like, right? What do they do? Where do they go? Do they feel appreciated in their life? You know what I mean? Not as the worker and not in the employee setting, but what is their personal life like, right? They have social life. They have an depth to them as well, off the clock sort of consciousness to them that if you take time, you will find these other little shadowy and light pieces and purpose and worth and that will lead you to other understandings about them. And that helps better solutions when we're troubleshooting because you know them better, and so you offer solutions that are more harmonious to them. Oh yeah, final piece, which I haven't really talked about, and we obviously will get into later, but is right. It's not just the external bank, the customers who come in, the tellers, and it also isn't just even the CEOs, the branch model, the managers, and the workers too. Yeah, they make the system up, they keep that your bank running. But there's the last part, and that's how does your bank interact with the global economy or the state economy or wherever you're sort of in your placement in reality. How does your bank as a whole now work with the exterior? Other banks. How are you gauged on the stock market? How do others who aren't your customers look at your bank, right? That's a whole other section of seeing the big picture. This is the third level, the sort of spirit, the flow, the incorporation of both of these workings that are necessary for the system to do work. But then we have to ask ourselves, well, yeah, we're doing work and we're a system, but what are we doing work in? What is within? How do we keep this work going? There must be others to interact with in order to have a reason that we are a system doing work, right? And that's what I'm trying to create with the metaphor and talk about when we see how other out there interprets your bank and your model. And it's very exterior to you, and you don't really have any direct connection to that either, how another perceives you. So those are sort of the three sections of the banking model to keep in mind, and how to see yourself as the banking service and your system as this model. Like I said before, I really love to use not only corporate hierarchy as inverted great truths from the organic setup, but we also have this super genius, evil genius inversion of currency, of money, of tangible. Yes, it's fiat currency, I understand that, but I'm just talking about creating a tangible tool that we are handing back and forth, that it's an inverted model of the energetics we're already doing, and we always do. And it's inverted because it's used in a restrictive way. The model in itself says it has to be used a certain way, which isn't a negative orientation, right? Because it says that in order to have more, you must make more. It's limited in itself. And that is negatively oriented. And the last thing I'm going to just briefly touch on, this video is going to half an hour. Thank you so much for staying with me. And I apologize for saying I'm going to keep it short and then rambling on and on. But the second section of level 4, we'll be talking about polarity overall charge. It's important to bring this in here as the banking model is, because sometimes it can be a bit confusing what we're talking about with polarity and charge versus processes, right? Everything that I've just talked about has to do with the processes. Individuals, splitting of the whole. And what we're talking about with polarity and charge is the whole. It's the before, it's the whole time, the meanwhile of what the things have been split into. And that can be kind of hard to understand, but within the banking model, what I like to help people to understand, and what's created clarity for me, is to see it as polarity and charge as this snapshot image. If any day at the close of market, or any day that somebody went and typed into a search your bank and wanted to see the books, kind of, you know, like what your stock is worth, what they say you're worth, you know, what your website looks like, the image of everything that could be presented of your bank at that time, a picture of that at the moment. I like to look at it at the end of the day or the close of the day, sort of, but it really could be at any time. Now, the end of the day balance of the books is what I like to call it. How do your books balance at the end of the day? Do you have a surplus, or are you negative? And this has deep ties back to the original truths, because if you align with the original truth, and you know that the abundance comes from just being alive and having conscious awareness and just being, you can never deplete that system. You can never actually be in the negative, no matter what parameters you look at that at. you know? Conversely, if you look at it like you have to have money in your bank, you have to have, say, $500,000 as this sort of buffer for your ins and outs of all your transactions, then if you don't have it, right, you're negative. You owe money out there. Your business is in the red, like they call it. And mostly all of our businesses are built on tangible currency. And so, I mean, it makes sense and it follows their truths. It's totally logical in their framing to have a model where you have to have money put into it. And if you're not making more money than you've spent, then you're behind and you're lost and stuff like that. The banking model energetic currency, it's easier to understand and see how this works in a tangible sort of model, right? The bank, in a negative aspect set, all throughout the day, the transactions of the teller, not only do they have a micromanaging boss who hates their job and who is like aggressive towards them and makes the job uncomfortable in that sort of sense, every transaction they do is watched under a microscope, down to the cent, right? Every transaction has to be right on the cent. And the customers who come in don't have a nice even $50 deposit, right? Every single one of them is going to have 51 and 32 cents, 56 and 27 cents, and all of these weird handoffs that are uncomfortable and that require really diligent bookkeeping in order to keep not make a mistake, right? Because throughout the day with your books, you've got to keep them on track so that you know what you're spending, you know what the balance of your drawer is and all of that, right? When you have a micromanaging boss who thinks you're stealing or could steal and you could lose your job and then you can't provide for your family and you can't do X, Y, and Z without this job, so you want to make sure you don't ever look like you're stealing or ever look like you're doing this or that or whatever. So your energy and all your time and stuff, there's a whole atmosphere that gets created by making sure you're not making a mistake on the books with your math and double checking and all of this stuff. And you get short customers because of that and everything, right? And at the end of the day, that really matters. What your total is really matters. And if it's off, you're fired. You know what I mean? Like there's stuff on the line for tallying those books up all the time. Conversely, in a positively aligned banking system where things are offered freely and where the system flows by keeping itself going, tellers round up on every transaction in a happy way, not in a harmful way, not rounding up to the customer and charging more to them to keep yourself safe. No, at each side where it is comfortable and needed, they round up. And that saves money. Just like when you go out and you go to go grocery shopping, instead of plugging it into the calculator and putting every single thing in, if you just round to the next dollar or the next 50 cents or whatever is easy for you and convenient, your balance you'll never be short because you'll always be over balancing. In a positively aligned pay it forward flowing system like that, every teller does that. The bank wants that. It encourages that. It has space for that. And when you build space for that on a whole, it builds a whole other type of system. And your workers, have much more room and availability to stay positive and happy and in a great atmosphere and treat the customers well and make sure everybody's taken care of and has what they need. Because the truth's aligned to that. The business model aligns to that. And what they do on these little transactions, moment to moment, is encouraging that and safeguarding that. Not in a negative, restrictive, over-the-top managing way like it does in the negative system. And the last thing I'm going to leave here with this sort of building of the models, right, is throughout the day, and when it comes to the end of the day, the teller in the positive system isn't sweating anything. They love their day. It's 4:45. They know what they're doing later. They've planned what they've done for dinner. You know, they're on time. They feel great. They're whistling at the end of the day. They're ready to clock out. They're asking if they've got free time the last 5 minutes. Does anybody need help doing anything? Kind of thing happens at the end of the day in a positive system. The books, you go through your books nice and easy because you know you're always over. You know what I mean? You know that's not crucial to your well-being that you have right on the marker of this thing. It's, you know, at the end of the day for the teller in the negative system, it looks a lot like it looks at the Matrix right now for quite a few people. I mean, granted, there's a lot of corruption in the financial world. I'm not going to say, you know, there's the whole other aspect to that. But that creates that other shadowed, echoed reflection, the black market, the dark web kind of whole thing the negative has. That bounce back, weird reflection that happens inside there. It's all because, you know, it's all built off of lies. And it feeds that negativity and it asks for it, basically. And it leaves space for that kind of stuff. Instead of rounding up and leaving space for continuity and empathy and caring and a helping hand, you know, they leave space for manipulations and chains and yoking somebody up instead. Yeah, so the teller at the end of the day, how they close their books, that's polarity. How your bank closes the day, it's not just about where the money's at and if you're negative or positive financially, it's about how the atmosphere of the closing of the day goes, how the workers feel at the end of the day, how the owners, the CEOs, the board close the day. Are they in alignment and playing in tune and in harmony with all the workers level to level, you know? Or is it this sort of real hierarchy where the top has like a wonderful day and the managers have sort of a better day and the workers have absolutely terrible never-ending day where they have to stay all night and stuff. Yeah. I'm going to leave it there. I really hope I gave people to think things to think on and chew on for this external service, what it looks like, the many different ways that it presents itself, and the actual real world implications of it as well. Because with the internal systems, it's different. You know, we have a more of a control. We're able to do corrective things. We're able to hold ourselves accountable. We're able to roll our sleeves up and do the dirty work, put elbow grease in when we want to, and sense those other times when that's not the right time to do that either, right? To take it easy, to rest, to give ourselves a pat on the back or a cry if we need it or whatever. We can sense those things much easier when we're doing the inner work. And that's why I started with the inner systems before we even get to this outer work here. But just like I said at the start, know that if you go to observe and you find lots of issues with like your tellers and managers and all this stuff in your banking model, so to speak, understand and observe them as best as you can from a place of acceptance, of as is. And then when you can accept it as is and say, yes, okay, I understand it is that way, how do we make it better? You will receive answers. They will offer up answers when they know and feel that they're being heard and they're ready to be listened to, right? So instead of, you know, going and bombarding customers and asking them, what do you think about my bank? Oh, do you like it here? Here's a survey. Here's this. Or trying to go out in the world and become the customer or mystery shop yourself and do all this sort of nonsense that it's very wrapped up in the external world. That external world isn't even real. It's all reflections of other people's little bubbles. Like I talked about that triangle at the start we step into. All porous boundaries, all sacred boundaries are that. We're all one, you know. So don't get out there trying in the external and the reflections to make changes, because when you try to make changes in the reflections, it just causes ripple effects out there, more distortion and confusion, and you'll chase out things and you'll be lost in the mazes of mirrors out there, when in fact the real solution comes from where are we reflecting from, right? What's the internal? And so if you go inside in there, you will find ways to fix that. Find the things that are causing the issue in the first place, right? But yeah, if you missed if you miss the level sort of 2 and 3 workings, or perhaps they're always great to go back to. And it's not to say this is something you do once and never return to either. You know, it's continually going back. But sort of once you learn the techniques, they're meant to be taken and tailor fit to your life and your needs. You know, it's not really something that you should have to check back and follow A to Z, a protocol. It's, you know, the alphabet, so write your solution now, right? Hear it, listen to your heart and your song, hear what it is and write it. You know, you can't write somebody else's story just because we all use the alphabet to write it, right? So I hope this has been a good video. Thank you so much for sticking with me like double time today in this level 4 video. It is such a large concept though, so forgive myself for going over my expectations here. As always, thank you so much for your audience, for your contribution to the collective. I appreciate everyone who watches my videos so much and listens. If you're ever looking for more or anything different from me, know that you can always find me on Spotify, directly on amariespeaks.com, and on Telegram, all of which I have different content available, infographics and blogs and such. Also on my website, there's a whole tools tab that has a plethora of free resources and third-party information, not just stuff of my own creation or information, but also a lot of resources that I have enjoyed myself are there for free, links and books and videos and stuff. So if you're looking for other material, you can always find other things over there. Feel free to leave comments, send me emails. Love to hear you guys all the time. Thank you so much, and I will see you soon.